The first sign something was wrong came from Instagram. I was scrolling through my feed, double-tapping photos of perfectly plated dishes, when I saw it. Raylan's latest post, a familiar-looking dessert at Le Bernardin, topped with a distinctive chocolate work I'd recognize anywhere. The same dessert Harlan had claimed to eat alone at his business dinner 3 nights ago. I'm Zella, and as a food photographer and chef, I notice details others might miss. The way chocolate curls catch the light, the precise angle of a fork against bone china, the telltale signs of a shared dessert with 2 spoons carefully placed just so. My thumb hovered over the image. The timestamp matched. My stomach churned as I clicked through to Raylan's story, finding nothing but her usual carefully curated posts. But there it was, the edge of a man's watch in one frame. Harlan's watch, the one I'd given him for our 5th anniversary. "Hey babe," I called out, keeping my voice steady. "Did you run into Raylan at Le Bernardin the other night?" Harlan looked up from his laptop, his pause a fraction too long. "What? No. Why would you think that?" I watched his face, cataloging every micro-expression like I would the components of a complex dish. The slight twitch at the corner of his mouth, the way his eyes didn't quite meet mine. "Just wondering. She posted about being there the same night as your dinner. Must have been a coincidence," he said, turning back to his screen. "Big restaurant, lots of people." I nodded, already pulling up my phone's tracking app, the one we'd installed years ago to share our locations, back when we actually cared about each other's safety. There it was, his location history, perfectly overlapping with Raylan's Instagram posts, not just at Le Bernardin, but at dozens of places over the past few months. "I'm heading to the studio," I said, gathering my camera bag. "Got that shoot for the new bistro on 7th. He barely looked up. "Have fun." Instead of going to my studio, I drove to Raylan's apartment building. My best friend of 15 years, the maid of honor at my wedding, the woman who'd held my hand through my father's funeral. Her car was parked in its usual spot, and right next to it, Harlan's BMW. I sat there for an hour, watching. When they emerged together, his hand on the small of her back, their quick kiss before parting ways, I didn't feel the explosion of rage I'd expected. Instead, a cold, calculated clarity washed over me. That evening, I prepared dinner as usual. Harlan came home late, claiming traffic was terrible. "How was your shoot?" he asked, loosening his tie. I plated his favorite pasta dish, the one I'd perfected during our honeymoon in Italy. "Actually, I've been thinking about hosting a dinner party. It's been ages since we've had everyone over." "Oh?" He took a bite, closing his eyes in appreciation. "What's the occasion?" "No occasion. Just missing our friends. I thought we could invite the usual crowd. Jonah, Marcus, and Kate." I twirled pasta around my fork. "Raylan, of course." He coughed slightly. "Sounds nice. When were you thinking?" "Next Saturday? I'll handle everything. You know how I love planning these things." "Sure, whatever you want." He smiled, reaching for his wine glass. I watched him drink, already mentally crafting the menu for what would be my most important dinner service yet. Each course would tell a story, our story. From the first bite to the last, I would serve them all a taste of their own betrayal. Later that night, I called my sister Elena. "You're being awfully calm about this," she said, after I told her everything. "What good would screaming do?" I stirred honey into my tea, watching it dissolve. "They think they're so clever, sneaking around, sharing desserts, playing their little game. Fine, let's play." "Zella, I'm not going to poison anyone, if that's what you're worried about." I laughed softly. "I'm just going to serve them exactly what they deserve. A perfectly planned, expertly executed dinner party where every single detail matters." And then what? I thought about the way Raylan had hugged me last week, complimenting my new haircut while wearing the perfume I'd bought her for Christmas. About how Harlan still kissed me goodbye each morning, tasting of lies and her lipstick. Then they'll learn what happens when you betray someone who knows how to turn a simple dinner into an unforgettable experience. I sipped my tea, already composing the guest list in my mind. You know what they say. Revenge is a dish best served in courses. Just be careful. Alina sighed. Don't let this consume you. Trust me, I said, opening my recipe journal to a fresh page. This will be my finest work yet. I began to write, each ingredient carefully chosen, each course designed to slowly, exquisitely unravel their carefully constructed deception. By the time I finished planning, the sun was rising, and I had crafted the perfect menu for their last supper as respected members of our social circle. You're going full Gone Girl on them, aren't you? Alina sat cross-legged on my kitchen counter, watching me sort through old photographs. Please, Amy Dunn was unhinged. I'm just being thorough. I held up a photo from 3 summers ago. Harlan, Raylan, and me at the Hamptons. Their body language was obvious now, the way they stood slightly too close, how his hand barely brushed her waist. Found anything interesting? I spread the photos across my marble countertop. Oh, plenty. Look at this one. I handed her a picture from Raylan's birthday last year. See how they're the only ones not looking at the cake? They're looking at each other. God, they weren't even trying to hide it, were they? They thought they were clever. I pulled out my phone, showing her the guest list. What do you think about the seating arrangement? Alina scrolled through the names. Jonah next to Raylan. That's cruel. You know he had a thing for her. Has. And he's also the most observant person we know. He'll pick up on every little detail. My phone buzzed. A text from Raylan. Can't wait for Saturday. Need me to bring anything? The audacity. Alina muttered, reading over my shoulder. I typed back, just yourself. Though maybe wear that blue dress you got last month, the one you wore to Le Bernardin. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, perfect. See you then. That'll keep her up tonight, I said, setting my phone down. Now, help me with these place cards. We spent the next hour writing names in elegant calligraphy, each card containing a hidden message, visible only under the right light. I'd learned the trick from a wedding photographer, invisible ink that appears when exposed to black light. What about this one? Alina held up a group photo from my wedding day. Raylan stood beside me in her maid of honor dress, her hand on Harlan's arm. 2 on the nose? Perfect for the slideshow. I took the photo, scanning it into my laptop. It'll play during dessert, right when the lights dim. The doorbell rang. Harlan wasn't due home for hours. Expecting someone? Alina asked. I checked the security camera feed on my phone. Jonah, right on time. I opened the door to find him holding a bottle of wine. You said you needed my help with something? Come in. I led him to the kitchen, where photos still covered every surface. I'm planning a dinner party. Jonah's eyes swept over the images, understanding dawning on his face. How long have you known? Long enough. I poured him a glass of wine. Question is, how long have you? He took a long sip before answering. I saw them at that new wine bar in Soho 2 months ago. They didn't see me. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you. Well, now you don't have to. I handed him an invitation. I need you there on Saturday. Can you handle that? Handle watching them squirm. He smiled grimly. With pleasure. But Zella, are you sure about this? It's going to burn every bridge. They lit the match first. I gathered the photos into neat piles. Besides, I'm not doing anything except serving dinner and showing some memories. If they react badly, that's on them. Alina cleared her throat. Show him the menu. I pulled out my recipe journal, flipping to the carefully planned courses. First, oysters with pomegranate mignonette. Harlan and Raylan's first secret dinner was at that oyster bar on 8th. Then the pasta they shared in Little Italy when they told me they were working late. Jonah leaned forward, reading. And the dessert. Le Bernardin's signature chocolate dish. I called in a favor from the pastry chef. He's recreating it exactly. You're not just exposing them, Jonah said slowly. You're making them relive every moment. While surrounded by all our closest friends. I closed the journal. They wanted to share meals behind my back. Fine, let's share everything. My phone buzzed again. Harlan. Stuck at work, don't wait up. I showed the message to Alina and Jonah. Want to guess where he really is? Alina pulled up Instagram, scrolling through Raylan's stories. There it was, a check-in at a rooftop bar downtown. At least they're consistent, Jonah muttered. I started gathering the photos, tucking them into a folder. Saturday can't come soon enough. Need help with anything else? Jonah stood, straightening his jacket. Just be there, and Jonah. I caught his arm. Sit next to Raylan, make her comfortable, make her talk. He nodded, understanding perfectly. I'll make sure she has plenty to say. After they left, I stood in my kitchen, surrounded by the evidence of years of betrayal. My phone lit up with another text from Harlan. Missing you. Be home soon. I typed back, take your time. I'm busy planning our dinner party. It's going to be unforgettable. And it would be. They had no idea what was coming, but soon they'd taste every bitter bite of their betrayal. I opened my recipe journal again, refining each detail until every course was perfect. Like any good chef, I knew timing was everything, and on Saturday, the timing would be impeccable. The private dining room at Maison Rouge was perfect. Intimate lighting, dark wood panels, and most importantly, a state-of-the-art projection system disguised as vintage wall sconces. I stood in the center, visualizing how everything would unfold. The screen will lower here, I explained to Marcus, the restaurant's manager and an old culinary school friend. During dessert, right? Right after I dim the lights. He gestured to the control panel, and the photos will play automatically. On a loop. Trust me, they won't need to see them twice. I pulled out my tablet, showing him the seating arrangement. I need Harlan and Raylan to sit here and here. Perfect view of the screen, but too far apart to whisper to each other. The door opened, and Sophie, the head chef, walked in carrying a tasting plate. First course sample, as requested. I examined the oysters, arranged in a perfect circle, with pomegranate seeds scattered like drops of blood. These are exactly what I wanted, but can we add just a touch more mignonette? I want it to bite. Like your revenge? Sophie smirked. Girl, when you told me what they did, I wanted to add ghost peppers to their plates. Too obvious. I adjusted a pomegranate seed with my fork. This needs to be subtle, elegant, like a slow poison. Speaking of poison, Marcus said, your husband called earlier to confirm the reservation. Asked if he could bring a bottle of wine. I laughed. Let me guess, a 2015 Bordeaux? How did you know? It's Raylan's favorite. She probably suggested it, thinking she was being helpful. I took a bite of the oyster. Perfect. Now show me the main course. Sophie disappeared into the kitchen, returning with a plate of handmade pasta in a dark truffle sauce. This is the exact recipe from Giorgio's in Little Italy. Took some convincing, but the old man finally shared his secrets. I twirled the pasta, remembering how I'd found the receipt from Giorgio's in Harlan's jacket pocket months ago. They shared this dish every Wednesday night, claiming they were working late. Want to know something interesting? Sophie leaned in. They were here last week. Ordered the same pasta. My hand tightened around the fork. Did they look happy? They looked guilty. Marcus cut in. Kept checking their phones, jumping every time the door opened. Good, they should be nervous. I pulled out my phone, showing them the dessert photo from Le Bernardin. Can you recreate this exactly? Sophie studied the image. The chocolate work will be tricky, but yes. Want me to add anything special? Just make it identical. I want them to recognize it immediately. I stood, walking to the wall where the screen would descend. When the dessert arrives, that's when the photos start. Years of their little rendezvous, all their secret moments, played out for everyone to see. Zella, Marcus touched my arm. Are you sure about this? It's going to be brutal. They made their choice. I straightened a place setting. Now they get to own it publicly. My phone buzzed. A text from Raylin. Hey love. Quick question about Saturday. Is it okay if I bring my camera? Would love to capture the evening. She wants to photograph her own downfall. I showed them the message. How poetic. Sophie shook her head. The nerve of some people. I typed back, of course, you know me. Always love having memories to look back on. You're scary good at this, Marcus observed. I learned from the best. I gestured around us. They taught me how to lie with a smile. The kitchen door swung open again, this time revealing a sample of the appetizers. Delicate canapes, topped with caviar and gold leaf. These will be passed around during cocktail hour, Sophie explained. Right before you seat them for dinner. I picked one up, admiring the presentation. Remember to serve the special ones to Harlan and Raylan. The ones with the extra spicy wasabi hidden inside. Don't worry, they'll be marked. Perfect. I checked my watch. I should go. Harlan's cooking dinner tonight, probably trying to ease his conscience. At the door, Marcus caught my arm. Just be prepared. This could get ugly. It already is ugly, I replied. I'm just bringing it into the light. Driving home, I got another text, this time from Jonah. Ran into R at the grocery store. She's wearing the guilt-like perfume. Almost felt sorry for her. Almost. I smiled, typing back. Save your sympathy. She'll need it Saturday. Harlan was in the kitchen when I arrived, stirring something that smelled like his attempt at risotto. Hey, beautiful, where've you been? Just finalizing details for Saturday. I kissed his cheek, tasting the lie in his casual smile. Everything's coming together perfectly. Can't wait, he said, adding too much wine to the risotto. It's been too long since we've had everyone together. I watched him cook, this man who thought he could serve me mediocre risotto and mediocre lies. You're right, it's time everyone was in the same room again. No more secrets. He stirred faster, the rice sticking to the bottom of the pan. No more secrets, he echoed, not meeting my eyes. I smiled, thinking of the menu waiting at Maison Rouge. Each course designed to strip away their pretenses, bite by bitter bite. It's going to be a night to remember. The cocktail hour began exactly as planned. Harlan arrived first, adjusting his tie nervously in the restaurant's mirrored entrance. I watched him through the security feed on my phone, standing in the private dining room. He's here, Marcus announced unnecessarily. And he brought the wine. Let me guess, 2 bottles? 3, actually. 2015, Bordeaux, just like you said. I smoothed my black dress, checking my reflection. Raylan's favorite. He's planning to get her drunk enough to relax. The door opened, and Jonah entered, looking sharp in a navy suit. Ready for the show? Almost. Just waiting for our guest of honor. As if on cue, Raylan walked in, wearing the blue dress from Le Bernardin. She'd styled her hair differently, but the dress was unmistakable. I watched through the feed as she and Harlan carefully maintained their distance, their eyes meeting briefly before darting away. Showtime, I whispered, stepping out into the bar area. Zella, Raylan rushed forward, embracing me, her perfume, the one I'd given her, wrapped around us like a noose. This place is gorgeous. Isn't it? I hugged her back, feeling the tension in her shoulders. That dress looks even better than it did at Le Bernardin. She stiffened slightly, then forced a laugh. Oh, you saw that post? I meant to tell you about that dinner. No secrets between friends, right? I waved over a server with the canapes. Try these. They're specially marked for you and Harlan. The wasabi hit them 3 bites in. Harlan coughed, reaching for his water, while Raylan's eyes watered dramatically. Oh my God, she gasped. That's intense. Is it? I took a regular one, biting into it delicately. Tastes fine to me. More guests arrived. Couples we'd known for years, all part of our tight-knit social circle. I'd seated them strategically, ensuring maximum visibility for what was to come. Shall we move to the dining room? I gestured toward the double doors. Everyone's place cards are set. Harlan found his seat, frowning when he realized how far he was from Raylan. She sat between Jonah and Kate, looking increasingly uncomfortable as Jonah engaged her in conversation. Remember that night at the wine bar in Soho? I heard him ask her quietly. You looked stunning in that red dress. Raylan's hand shook as she reached for her water. I don't recall. Really, it was just 2 months ago. You were there with The first course arrived, interrupting their conversation. Oysters gleamed under the soft lighting. Pomegranate seeds scattered like accusations across the plates. "These look familiar," Harlan commented, trying to sound casual. "They should," I replied, loud enough for everyone to hear. "They're from that little place on 8th Street. You know the one, right, Raylin? With the amazing happy hour?" She dropped her fork. "I've never been there." "No?" I pulled out my phone, scrolling through photos. "That's strange, because I have this picture." Before I could show it, servers appeared with the wine. Harlan's Bordeaux being poured into Raylan's glass first. "Your favorite, isn't it?" I asked innocently. 2015 was such a good year. "How did you know it was her favorite?" Kate asked, looking between us. "Oh, Harlan mentioned it," I said smoothly. "Didn't you, honey?" He took a large gulp of his wine. "Must have." Jonah leaned closer to Raylin. "Speaking of wine, that bar in Soho had an amazing selection. What was it you were drinking that night? Something Italian." Raylin's napkin slipped from her lap. As she bent to retrieve it, a small envelope fell from beneath her place card. The first of many I'd hidden around the room. "What's this?" She opened it, color draining from her face as she read the note inside. "Lovely evening at Le Bernardin. The chocolate dessert looked divine, especially with 2 spoons." Her eyes met Harlan's across the table, panic flickering between them. I watched as she subtly shook her head at him, a silent warning. "Everything okay?" I asked, noting how neither had touched their oysters. "The pomegranate mignonette might be a bit strong. Like guilt, it tends to leave a bitter taste." The room had grown quieter, other guests picking up on the tension. Kate was looking between Harlan and Raylin with dawning comprehension, while her husband Marcus whispered something to Jonah. "Maybe we should have some music," Harlan suggested desperately. "Oh, don't worry," I smiled, nodding to Marcus at the control panel. "I have something special planned for later." Raylin's phone buzzed, another part of my plan. She checked it under the table, her face paling further at the message I'd scheduled. A photo of her and Harlan outside her apartment, his hand on the small of her back. "More wine," I offered, holding up the bottle she'd recommended to my husband months ago. "There's plenty to go around, just like friendship, right? Meant to be shared?" The oysters sat untouched, pomegranate seeds bleeding into the ice beneath them. The first course wasn't even over, and already their perfect facades were cracking. I caught Jonah's eye across the table, and he nodded slightly. Time for the next course. The pasta arrived steaming, the rich truffle aroma filling the room. Giorgio's signature dish, perfectly recreated down to the last detail. I watched as recognition flickered across both their faces. "This looks exactly like..." Raylin started, then caught herself. "Like what?" Kate asked, twirling her fork. "Nothing," Raylin mumbled, staring at her plate. "Oh, you mean like the pasta from Giorgio's," I offered helpfully. "The little place in Little Italy. They only serve this dish on Wednesday nights, I hear." Harlan's fork clattered against his plate. How did I what, darling?" I met his eyes steadily. "Know about your favorite Wednesday night spot?" The silence that followed was delicious. Around the table, our friends were starting to exchange glances, pieces falling into place. "Speaking of Wednesday nights," Jonah chimed in, right on cue. "Wasn't that your late meeting night, Harlan? The standing appointment with those clients from Boston?" Before Harlan could respond, servers appeared with fresh wine glasses. As they leaned between guests, they discreetly placed more envelopes beside certain plates. Raylin found hers first, a receipt from Giorgio's, dated 3 weeks ago, with her lipstick mark still visible on the napkin I'd retrieved from her purse during our last lunch date. "You know what's funny?" I continued, taking a deliberate bite of pasta. "I always wondered why you came home smelling like truffles after those client meetings." Kate picked up her envelope next, gasping softly as she read its contents. She passed it to her husband, who shook his head in disgust. "Zella," Harlan warned, his voice low. "What are you doing?" "Just sharing memories, honey." Isn't that what friends do? I nodded to Marcus, who dimmed the light slightly. The wall behind Harlan and Raylin, illuminated with a photo, them entering Giorgio's together, his hand on her waist. The timestamp showed 8:47 p.m. last Wednesday. Oh my God, someone whispered. Raylin stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I need some air. But you haven't finished your pasta, I said sweetly. It's your favorite, isn't it? The same dish you two shared every Wednesday while I worked late on my cookbook. This is inappropriate, Harlan started, but Jonah cut him off. You know what's inappropriate? He pulled out his phone. Meeting your best friend's wife at wine bars in Soho. Want to see the pictures I took that night? You knew. Raylin whirled on him, tears streaming down her face. Everyone knew, Kate said quietly. We just couldn't believe you'd do this to Zella. The pasta steamed between us, forgotten. On the wall, the photos continued, a silent documentary of their betrayal, them leaving her apartment building, sharing dessert at Le Bernardin. Quick kisses in dark corners they thought no one could see. When? I asked, my voice carrying in the hushed room. When did it start? Neither answered. Their silence spoke volumes. Was it that weekend in the Hamptons, 3 summers ago? I gestured to the next photo appearing on the wall, when you thought I was too busy with my camera to notice how close you stood. Harlan pushed his plate away. This is childish, Zella. If you knew, you should have said something privately. Privately? I laughed, the sound sharp as a knife. Like how you privately fucked my best friend. Like how you privately shared meals and wines and secrets while I trusted you both? Raylin sank back into her chair, sobbing quietly now. Jonah didn't move to comfort her. I have to go, she choked out. But dessert hasn't been served yet, I said. It's a special recreation from Le Bernardin. Your favorite chocolate dish, the one you shared 3 nights ago. More photos appeared on the wall. A progression of their relationship told through stolen moments and secret meetings. Our friends watched in horrified fascination. How long have you known? Harlan demanded. Long enough to collect every receipt, every photo, every little breadcrumb you two left behind. I took another bite of pasta. It's amazing what people notice when you're too busy gazing into each other's eyes to see them. I can explain, Raylin tried, but Kate cut her off. Save it. We've all seen enough. The pasta grew cold on their plates, untouched like their excuses. Around the table, years of friendship crumbled like parmesan. The main course will be served soon, I announced, as if this were any normal dinner party. I hope you saved room. It's another of your favorites, the salmon, from that place in Brooklyn where you celebrated your 6-month anniversary last month. Harlan's face went white. How could you possibly know about that? I smiled, raising my glass. Let's just say I'm not the only one who's good at keeping receipts. Right, Jonah? The lights dimmed further as servers cleared the pasta plates. In the semi-darkness, I could see Raylin and Harlan's world collapsing, one course at a time. And we weren't even at dessert yet. The salmon arrived under silver domes, each plate a perfect recreation of their secret anniversary dinner. As servers lifted the covers in unison, more envelopes fluttered onto the table. Hotel receipts this time, from their weekend business trips. You know what I find interesting? I swirled my wine, watching the color catch the light. How you both always ordered room service for 2. Stop this, Harlan pleaded, his facade finally cracking. Just stop. Why? Are you uncomfortable? Imagine how I felt finding these in your jacket pocket. I nodded to Marcus, who projected the hotel bills onto the wall. The champagne charges are particularly fascinating. Kate picked up one of the receipts. The plaza, on my birthday. You said you couldn't come to my party because you were sick, Raylin. I can explain, Raylin whispered, mascara streaking down her cheeks. Please do. Jonah leaned back, arms crossed. Explain how you've been sleeping with your best friend's husband. For how long exactly? The silence stretched like pulled taffy, bitter and dark. 18 months, I answered for them. Since that charity gala, where you both disappeared for an hour. Remember that night, Harlan? You came home with lipstick on your collar. The same shade Raylan's wearing right now. More photos appeared on the wall. Security camera stills from the hotel lobby. Date and timestamps clear as day. Their pathetic attempts at discretion, entering separately but always within minutes of each other. Jesus Christ, someone muttered. Did you think no one would notice? I cut into my salmon. Or did you just not care? Raylan's phone buzzed again. Another scheduled message. She didn't even check it this time, just sat there trembling. Check your phone, Ray, I insisted. It might be important. Like that text you sent Harlan last week about missing his touch. Her head snapped up. You hacked my phone? No need. You used my laptop to check your messages last month. Forgot to log out of your email. I smiled. Amateur mistake. The salmon sat untouched on their plates, just like their guilt sat heavy in the air. I trusted you, I continued, my voice steady. Both of you. You were my maid of honor, Raylan. You stood next to me and watched me marry him. Was that when it started? Were you already fucking my husband when you helped me pick out my wedding dress? No, she burst out. It wasn't. We never meant. To get caught? Jonah finished. Because that's the only thing you're really sorry about, isn't it? Harlan stood suddenly, his chair scraping back. This is enough. We're leaving. Sit down, I commanded. And to my satisfaction, he did. We haven't even gotten to the best part yet. More photos appeared, a timeline of their betrayal, them leaving work events early together, secret meetings in coffee shops, quick kisses in parking lots. I have to admit, I continued, you were thorough. Separate credit cards for hotel rooms, different restaurants each week. But you forgot one thing. What's that? Harlan asked, his voice hoarse. I'm a food photographer. I notice details, like how you always ordered the same wine, always split dessert, always sat in dark corners, thinking no one could see you. I gestured to the wall of evidence behind them. But someone always sees. Kate stood up, throwing her napkin down. I can't be here for this. Marcus, her husband nodded, standing with her. We'll send you the gift we were going to bring to your anniversary party next month, Harlan. Though I guess that's canceled now. One by one, other guests began to leave. Each exit, another nail in their social coffin. Wait, Raylan called out desperately. Please, let me explain. Explain what? Kate turned back. How you betrayed someone who loved you. How you smiled in our faces while sleeping with her husband. Save your explanations for your therapist. Soon only Jonah remained with us, watching as Harlan and Raylan sat in stunned silence. You know what the worst part is? I said, finally pushing my plate away. I'm not even angry anymore. I'm just disappointed in how predictable you both are. The cheap hotel rooms, the secret texts, the lies about working late. If you knew, Harlan started, why didn't you just confront us? And miss this dinner, please. I stood, smoothing my dress. Besides, I wanted everyone to see exactly who you are. No more hiding in dark corners. Raylan's phone buzzed one final time. She checked it mechanically, then dropped it like it burned her. What is it? Jonah asked. Screenshots, she whispered, of every message we ever sent each other. I took the liberty of forwarding them to everyone in our contact lists, I announced. They should be receiving them right about now. Their phones began lighting up with notifications, messages from friends, family, colleagues, their carefully constructed world of lies crumbling with each incoming text. Dessert will be served in 5 minutes, I said pleasantly. I hope you saved room. It's a very special recreation from Le Bernardin. The chocolate dessert arrived under spotlights, identical to the one they'd shared at Le Bernardin. The delicate chocolate work caught the light, casting shadows across their stricken faces. Look familiar? I asked, as servers placed the plates before them. The pastry chef was very helpful when I showed him your Instagram post, Raylan. He remembered you two specifically, said you seemed very intimate. Harlan pushed his plate away. I can't do this anymore, but it's your favorite. I insisted. You loved it so much, you went back 3 times last month, always on Tuesday afternoons, always when I had my cooking classes. Raylan's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. She finally turned it off, hands shaking. My mother just texted, she whispered. She saw the messages. Oh, right. I took a delicate bite of chocolate. I made sure to include your parents in the distribution list, and your boss. He seemed particularly interested in all those sick days you took together. Jonah leaned forward. You know what I don't understand? Why keep coming to group events? Why risk being seen? Because they thought they were smarter than everyone else, I answered for them. They thought their little codes and signals were clever, like how Raylin would always wear red when she wanted to meet up. Harlan's head snapped up. How did you know about that? The same way I knew about the hotel room numbers you'd text her disguised as work addresses, or the way you'd schedule fake client meetings in your shared calendar. The chocolate on their plates began to melt, much like their composure. I have to call my lawyer. Harlan reached for his phone. Already taken care of, I smiled. I sent him quite a comprehensive file this morning. He's dropping you as a client, by the way. Something about moral clauses. Raylin started sobbing again. My job, my reputation. Should have thought about that before sleeping with your best friend's husband. Jonah's voice was ice cold. What did you think would happen? The lights dimmed further, and the projector whirred to life one final time. But instead of photos, a video began playing. Security footage from their various meetups, expertly edited together like a tragic romance movie. I had help from the IT guy at your office, Harlan, I explained. Turns out, he doesn't approve of affairs either, especially since his wife left him for her boss last year. The video showed them entering and leaving hotels, sharing intimate moments in parking lots, all time-stamped and crystal clear. Turn it off, Harlan begged. Why? This is your story. Don't you want to see how it ends? The final clip was from 3 days ago. Them arguing outside Raylin's apartment. The audio was clear enough to hear their fight about whether to tell me. You said you were going to leave her. Raylin's voice echoed through the speakers. You promised. I never promised that. Video Harlan replied. I can't. It's complicated. Present-day Raylin stood up so quickly, her chair fell backward. You told me you loved me. He tells that to all his mistresses, I said quietly. Ask his secretary from 2 years ago. Or should I play that footage next? Harlan's face went from red to white. There's no other footage? Of course there is. I've spent months collecting everything. Every lie, every betrayal, every single time you thought you were being careful. I gestured to the screen. This is just the highlight reel. I'll lose everything, Raylin whispered. Funny how consequences work, isn't it? Harlan stood, finally finding his voice. You've made your point, Zella. What do you want? Money? The house? I don't want anything from you, I replied calmly. I just wanted everyone to see the truth. No more secrets, remember. The chocolate desserts sat melting. Forgotten symbols of their deceit. On the screen, their past indiscretions played on loop, a monument to their betrayal. My sister's waiting outside, I continued. She'll drive you both home, separately, of course, though I doubt either of you has a home to go to after tonight. Jonah stood straightening his jacket. I'll walk them out, make sure they don't try to spin this into something it's not. As they walked toward the door, broken and exposed, I called out one last time. Oh, and Harlan. The divorce papers are being delivered tomorrow. I took the liberty of copying our entire prenup to the first page. The infidelity clause is highlighted. He stopped, shoulders slumping. You've thought of everything, haven't you? Almost. I picked up my phone, showing them the screen. I'm just trying to decide which photo to use for my statement to the press. Your law firm's PR team is eager to get ahead of the story. They left without another word, their footsteps echoing through the empty restaurant. Jonah returned a few minutes later, sitting beside me. That was, he paused, searching for words. Justified? I suggested, finally allowing myself to smile. Because dessert isn't even the best part. There's more? I pulled out an envelope. The board meeting at his firm tomorrow morning, where these photos will be discussed in great detail. Turns out, sleeping with clients' wives is frowned upon in corporate law. The chocolate desserts remained untouched, melting into pools of dark regret. The morning sun streamed through my studio windows as I adjusted the lighting for my latest shoot. My phone buzzed, another news alert about Harlan's law firm. The headlines were getting creative. Top attorney's career melts faster than wedding cake. You're trending again, Alina announced, walking in with coffee. The video from the dinner has over 1 million views. Good. I checked the composition of my shot. How's Raylan doing with her new job search? Not great. Turns out most companies check social media these days. She handed me my coffee. Her parents made her move back home to Connecticut. The studio door opened, and Jonah walked in, carrying a familiar-looking dessert box. Special delivery from Le Bernardin. I laughed. The chocolate thing again. Actually, it's better. He opened the box, revealing an elegant cake. They want you to photograph their new dessert menu. Apparently, your dinner party story impressed the chef. Karma's got a sense of humor, Alina mused. My phone buzzed again. A text from Kate. Just drove past your old house. Moving trucks are there. He's really leaving. Speaking of karma, I showed them the message. The prenup worked exactly as planned. Did you ever think about just confronting them privately? Jonah asked, setting up his laptop. Instead of, destroying them publicly? I adjusted my camera settings. They chose to betray me publicly. Every dinner out, every hotel stay, every lie to our friends. That was their choice. I just made sure everyone saw the whole picture. Speaking of pictures, Alina pulled up a website on her tablet. Raylan's photography business is officially closed. Her clients all canceled after seeing the video. She should have stuck to Instagram filters, I murmured, focusing my lens. The studio door opened again. Marcus and Sophie from the restaurant. You'll never guess who just tried to make a dinner reservation. Marcus grinned. Harlan said he wanted to apologize. What did you tell him? That we're booked solid for the next century. Sophie set down a bag of pastries. Also, we're launching a new special. Called it The Sweet Revenge. It's selling out every night. My phone lit up with another message. From Harlan's law firm. Ms. Wilcox, we'd like to discuss featuring your photography in our rebranding campaign. Our new focus is on integrity and transparency. Now that's ironic. Jonah laughed, reading over my shoulder. Should I take it? I asked, already knowing the answer. Absolutely, Alina said. Charge them triple your usual rate. The morning light caught the lens of my camera, casting prism patterns across the studio wall. Like evidence of betrayal, they formed a perfect timeline of shadows and light. You know what the best part is? I adjusted my tripod. I never raised my voice, never threw anything, never even cried. I just showed everyone who they really were. Through food, Sophie added. Which is honestly the most chef thing ever. Through truth, I corrected. The food was just the medium. My phone buzzed one final time. A notification that the divorce was officially filed. No contests, no delays, just Harlan's signature on every page, exactly where it needed to be. So what now? Jonah asked, helping me set up the next shot. Now, I smiled, focusing my lens on the Le Bernardin cake. Now I do what I've always done. Create beautiful things, tell stories through food, and never settle for mediocre love or lukewarm pasta. And the house? Alina asked. Selling it. Already have 3 offers. I checked the light meter. Turns out, people love a good scandal location. The studio filled with morning light and possibility. On my laptop, another email notification popped up. A major publishing house interested in my story. From food photography to private investigation, a recipe for revenge. You're not actually going to write it, are you? Marcus asked. I thought about all the messages I'd received from other women, thanking me for showing them how to reclaim their power without losing their dignity. Maybe. I adjusted the cake's position slightly. But first, I have a dessert menu to shoot. Sophie, can you move that chocolate curl about 2 millimeters to the left? Perfectionist, she teased, but did as asked. I looked through my viewfinder, focusing on the intricate details of the dessert, like evidence, like truth, like revenge. Sometimes the smallest details made the biggest impact. Ready? I asked my assembled friends, each of whom had played their part in my elaborate dinner theater. They nodded, gathering around to watch me work. Through my lens, the dessert looked perfect, each element in its place, nothing hidden, everything exactly as it should be. I pressed the shutter, capturing the moment in perfect clarity. Like justice, like karma, like the truth, some things just needed the right light to be seen. Perfect shot, Jonas said, looking at the preview. It always was, I replied, already setting up the next one. You just had to know where to look.
I'm in my 8th year working as a pediatrician. Every day at Boston Children's Hospital, I face the reality of children's lives. When walking through the hospital, I always wear a simple J.Crew dress under my white coat, aiming for a modest yet clean appearance. Dr. Wilson, another wonderful surgery today. Whenever colleagues greet me this way, I feel a bit embarrassed. After all, my daily life as a Wilson family wife is far from glamorous. Working at a Harvard Medical School affiliated hospital is a source of pride for me, but it holds no value in my mother-in-law's eyes. How dare a woman of such low breeding marry my son? Margaret, my mother-in-law, would never say such words in public. She's known as a philanthropist and a devout Christian, a pillar of Trinity Church in Weston and a well-known figure in Boston high society. Sitting in the front row at Sunday services with her luxurious Cartier cross necklace gleaming at her chest, she embodies the ideal upper-class lady. But her public face and private face are like two different people. Our family lives in an upscale neighborhood in Weston. The 12,000 square foot mansion is nothing like the middle-class home I grew up in. This season, the vast garden designed by professional landscape architects is beautifully adorned with blooming lilacs and hydrangeas. Inside, antique furniture fills the rooms, with a massive Italian chandelier hanging overhead, something that still makes me feel uncomfortable. My husband Michael serves as an executive at a Silicon Valley startup. With his Harvard MBA, he's been recognized for his business acumen and has quickly climbed the corporate ladder. Tall and well-built, wearing his Brooks Brothers suit, he looks every bit the executive of a first-class company. Jennifer, meeting you was the greatest treasure of my life. That's what my kind husband tells me. The Tiffany wedding ring shining on the ring finger of my left hand is proof of that love. But in front of his mother, he becomes like a different person, unusually quiet. Our 6-year-old son Ethan is a first grader at a private elementary school. Dressed in his Brooks Brothers children uniform, he has a bright and honest personality that makes him popular with other children. I feel happiness as a mother every day watching him enjoy breakfast made with organic ingredients purchased from Whole Foods. Lately, though, he's begun to appear strangely tense in front of his grandmother. Mom, going to Grandma's house is. I should have been more sensitive to my son's words. As a pediatrician, I should have noticed even the slightest change in a child. Now, I'm filled with regret. My parents are concerned about this situation. My father Robert is known as one of the most influential lawyers in the state, and my mother Catherine is involved in charitable work as an important member of the church. Both of them had apparently sensed the difference between Margaret's public and private faces. They hadn't missed the subtle changes in her attitude at country club dinners and charity events. "Jennifer, I'll always support you and your son," my mother told me, gently holding my hand during lunch at the Capitol Grill. Everything began to change one Monday in late May. Michael left for a business trip to Silicon Valley, and because of a medical conference the next day, I had to leave Ethan with my mother-in-law. "Don't worry, I'll take care of Ethan," said Margaret with an elegant smile, and I had no reason to doubt her. In the soft early summer sunlight coming through the window, Margaret, dressed in a top-of-the-line Oscar de la Renta dress, looked almost saintly. It was a peaceful afternoon with a gentle breeze carrying the scent of lilacs from the garden. After my 36-hour shift, I walked wearily toward the Wilson family mansion. The May sunshine was bright, and as I passed through the garden with the sweet scent of hydrangeas in the air, I sensed something was wrong. I couldn't hear Ethan's energetic voice, the gardener working, or the maid moving about, all sounds I would normally hear. I took off my flat shoes and stepped into the mansion. Beyond the heavy entrance door stretched the usual elegant space, Italian marble floors, French antique furniture, and light from the chandelier pouring down from the ceiling. But this silence was clearly unusual. "Ethan, Mommy's home." My voice echoed hollowly. No response. "This is strange, it's never this quiet." My instinct as a pediatrician told me something seriously wrong had happened. My heart beat faster, and my palms began to sweat. The living room was empty. I only noticed an expensive porcelain teacup left half full on the table. Next to it lay Margaret's Hermès scarf, carelessly placed. "Ethan, where are you?" I ran up the marble staircase to the second floor. The master bedroom, Ethan's room, the study, there was no sign of anyone. Even the toys that would normally be scattered across the white carpet were nowhere to be seen. Then I heard it, a faint sobbing sound that froze me to the core. I listened carefully for the direction of the sound, which seemed to be coming from the backyard. Opening the large French doors, I stepped into the well-maintained garden. The spring sunlight was still bright and the scent of roses hung in the air, yet somehow there was an ominous feeling. And then I stood frozen in front of the doghouse in the corner of the backyard. His Brooks Brothers children uniform was dirty with mud and torn in places. Dog food was scattered around. And inside that small doghouse, my son was trembling. "Ethan, what happened?" I rushed over to embrace him, but for the first time, Ethan pulled away from my arms. "Mom." His small lips were pale and trembling. His eyes were swollen with tears. "Grandma said, I'm not family." His thin finger pointed to his own arm, where marks from being tied with rope remained. Though I was used to seeing such scars as a doctor, seeing them on my own son's body made me nauseous. She said, "Live outside, like a dog." Ethan's voice was broken. At his feet was a worn dog bowl. It undeniably contained dog food. I wanted water, but Grandma turned off the faucet. something snapped inside my head. Back in the mansion, Margaret was elegantly drinking tea in the living room. Dressed in a Carolina Herrera dress, sitting straight with her expensive baccarat teacup, she looked like a queen. The evening sun coming through the window cast an eerie light on the diamond of her ring. "Welcome back. I prepared a suitable home for your son." Her voice even had a proud ring to it. With a trembling voice, I asked her, "Why would you do such a terrible thing?" Margaret slowly set down her teacup and put on a perfect smile. Her gesture was like when she solicited donations at a church charity event. Lower-class family members deserve appropriate treatment. Don't make me laugh by suggesting that a child of your... She looked me up and down, appraising my J.Crew dress. Cheap bloodline could be the heir to the Wilson family. When we arrived at the Thompson family mansion where my parents lived, stars were already twinkling in the night sky. In the study of this imposing colonial-style mansion befitting a generations-old distinguished family, my father Robert was looking at photographs with a trembling hand. "This is clear child abuse." The voice of my father, the most influential lawyer in the state, was unusually shaky. My mother Catherine was embracing Ethan and crying. Her high-end silk blouse was wet with tears, but she didn't seem to care. "First, let's secure the evidence," my father said, regaining his composure as a lawyer and taking action. "I have photos and videos I took," I said, offering my phone. The doghouse, scattered dog food, the marks on Ethan's arms, I had meticulously recorded everything. "We also need a diagnosis from the emergency medical team," my father continued, taking notes. "Jennifer, as a physician, please record your son's condition in detail." My mother had already started making phone calls. Her connections as a pillar of Trinity Church in Weston extended to every corner of Boston high society. "About tomorrow's annual charity breakfast." My mother's voice lacked its usual softness. "I'll need to make some changes to the plans." After finishing treating Ethan's wounds, I sat down at my computer. Maintaining my composure as a doctor, I created a medical report for my son. Skin abrasions, mild dehydration, psychological trauma. Seeing these medical terms dancing across the screen almost brought tears to my eyes again. Just then, the butler announced a visitor. "Mr. James from Massachusetts Child Protective Services is here." A veteran staff member of the Child Protection Bureau and an old friend of my father had already begun to take action. Despite his mild appearance, there was a sharp light in his eyes. "This is clearly an emergency case. We'll begin investigation immediately." However, my father shook his head slightly. "We'll proceed with legal measures carefully. But for someone like Margaret, that alone is not enough." My mother continued quietly. "Tomorrow, more than 500 people from Boston's upper class will gather. The church's annual charity breakfast. It's Margaret's most important social occasion as a known philanthropist." My father nodded. "Both direct legal measures and social sanctions are necessary." That night, we made detailed plans. Press materials for major local media. Plans for spreading information on social media. and a presentation of the decisive photographic evidence. Late at night, as specialized IT technicians finalized the presentation materials, my mother's phone kept ringing. Her voice gradually spread to influential women throughout Boston. "Everything is ready." Before dawn, when my father announced this, we already had a perfect plan. At 8 a.m., the hall of Trinity Church in Weston was filled with the glamorous members of Boston high society. Oscar de la Renta, Carolina Herrera, Chanel, women dressed in the finest dresses. Men in the latest Brooks Brothers suits. And Margaret, making her entrance as elegantly as always. Her expression still showed no shadow of concern. "Now, let us begin this year's charity event." My mother's voice resonated throughout the venue as she stood on the podium. Suddenly, shocking images appeared on the screen: Ethan trembling in front of the doghouse. Scattered dog food. The marks on his arms. And the decisive photograph capturing Margaret's cruel smile. The venue froze. "These are the events my grandson experienced yesterday." My mother's voice was cold as ice and sharp as a blade. "This is the true face of Margaret Wilson, known as a philanthropist." Shocked voices rose from the audience. Mobile phone cameras were pointed at the screen one after another. Posts to social media could no longer be stopped. The murmurs quickly turned to voices of condemnation. At that moment, the venue doors burst open and local major media rushed in. They were press members meticulously prepared in advance. Camera flashes illuminated Margaret's pale face. Margaret's perfect makeup began to crumble. On the 47th floor of a high-rise building in Silicon Valley, Michael Wilson was in the middle of a presentation for $1 billion M&A deal. Dressed in a top-of-the-line Brooks Brothers suit and checking the time on his Apple Watch, he was methodically advancing through his slides. "And our company's strategic advantage in this deal is..." At that moment, his iPhone 15 Pro in his pocket began to vibrate intensely. Normally, he would ignore incoming calls. But somehow, this time was different. As if sensing something, he took out his smartphone. The screen showed countless unread messages. And a series of shocking images. "This concludes today's presentation. Mr. Wilson. This is $1 billion deal." The Silicon Valley investment moguls raised voices of confusion. But Michael's expression had already changed. "What's more important, my son and wife, or $1 billion? I choose my family." As soon as he left the conference room, he arranged for his private jet. But there was something he needed to do first. On the other end of the phone, Margaret was trying to make excuses in a flustered manner. "That's enough," he said. That night, important figures gathered in the reception room of the Thompson family home. "I propose a complete revocation of the property division," said the Wilson family legal advisor. "All previous charitable activities and social contributions should also be nullified." "No objection," Michael's voice held unprecedented strength. Outside the window, the Boston skyline quietly glowed in the night. A maid carried Dom Perignon champagne between the heavy furniture of the reception room. However, no one was in the mood for a toast. We need to start a new life, Michael said, slowly taking Jennifer's hand. There was still a slight tremor in her hand. Ethan's psychological counseling will also begin, announced the Thompson family's private physician. The best specialists at Boston Children's Hospital have already formed a team. The next day, at the pediatric ward of Boston Children's Hospital. Jennifer, I'm truly sorry, Michael's voice trembled. His eyes clearly showed regret. This deep emotional turmoil was unimaginable from his composed appearance in the high-rise conference room. It's my responsibility for not seeing my mother's true nature. For the first time in my life, I feel like I've made a decision based on my own will. It's all right, Michael, Jennifer answered quietly. We still have a lot to do. In the hospital bed, Ethan was sleeping. His expression was peaceful for the first time in days. PTSD treatment takes time, the attending physician explained. But with the love of family, he will surely recover. Listening to those words, Michael strengthened his resolve. First, to sell the Weston mansion. It was a decision to let go of the 12,000 square foot building and all the memories there. Let's choose a new home together, the three of us. Next, to relocate his work base to Boston. The billion-dollar deal in Silicon Valley was already a thing of the past. I want to value time with my family. What else do I need? And finally, to establish a new foundation for child abuse prevention. I want to turn our sad experience into hope for someone else. Jennifer deeply nodded at her husband's determination. As a physician, as a mother, and as a human being, she too had things she could do. While looking for a new home, the family stayed at the Four Seasons Hotel Boston. The Boston cityscape viewed from the presidential suite on the top floor symbolized the beginning of a new life. "Hey, Mom," Ethan, who was about to fall asleep, called out in a small voice. "From now on, do I have to see Grandma?" Jennifer momentarily lost words at that question. But she soon smiled gently. "No. It's all right now. From now on, we're starting a new life for the three of us. With Dad too." "Yes, of course." Michael silently watched the two. In that moment, he truly understood from the bottom of his heart what the most valuable investment in his life was. Outside the window, the Boston night view sparkled. That light seemed to illuminate their new future. And Margaret's downfall had only just begun. But that's another story. The story of the Wilson family, about to greet a new morning, was just now, in a true sense, beginning to move forward. 1 year later, in early summer. The sound of bells for Sunday service at Trinity Church in Weston vibrated through the quiet morning air. Margaret Wilson was not there. The 12,000 square foot mansion that once stood out even in Weston's upscale residential area had already passed to new owners. The Cartier cross necklace that was once the symbol of a philanthropist was sold at auction, and ironically, the proceeds were donated to a child abuse prevention fund. Margaret now lives alone in a small apartment far from Boston. She has lost everything: her Oscar de la Renta and Carolina Herrera dresses, her luxury antique furniture, and most importantly, her social status. Margaret Wilson. Oh, that child abuse case. Her former friends now grimace just hearing her name. All her weekly church activities, charity events, and country club memberships have been revoked. Her phone never rings anymore. Meanwhile, the Wilson family's new life had quietly begun in the Brook Hill area of Boston. Thank you for waiting. Let me begin today's presentation. Jennifer's voice echoed in the auditorium of Boston Children's Hospital. Early detection and prevention of child abuse, approaches from the medical field. The screen displayed detailed data and specific prevention measures. Michael sat in the front row. His Silicon Valley work was already a thing of the past. He now operates a venture capital fund specializing in child welfare, based in Boston. That was an excellent presentation, Dr. Wilson. Warm applause came from the audience, which included upper-class women who were once close to Margaret. Their values seem to have changed greatly over the past year. Mom, I was watching. Ethan burst through the auditorium doors. Still in his Brooks Brothers children uniform, but his expression showed no trace of the anxiety he once had. After cram school, I came with Dad to listen. Psychological counseling was still ongoing. But as the attending physician had said, an environment surrounded by family love was certainly healing his heart. Let's have a special dinner tonight, Michael suggested, and the family of 3 nodded in agreement. Not at the Capitol Grill, but at a small Italian restaurant they had discovered together. The tablecloths might not be the finest linen, but there was genuine warmth there. At Trinity Church in Weston, a sermon was being given that day as well. The theme was forgiveness and atonement. The voice of the senior priest standing at the pulpit resonated quietly. True love exists not in social status or wealth, but in our daily actions. Among the congregation was Catherine Thompson. She has now begun new activities as the chairperson of the church's Child Protection Committee. That night, at their new home in Brook Hill, Jennifer received an email. The sender was an unfamiliar address. Jennifer. I cannot ask for forgiveness. I just want to acknowledge that you were right and I was wrong. The sender was Margaret. However, Jennifer did not send a reply that night. Instead, she went to her son's room. Ethan was already asleep. Looking at his peaceful sleeping face, Jennifer let out a deep sigh. Outside the window, the early summer night sky quietly shone. It was as beautiful as the night sky a year ago when that terrible event happened. But now, everything is different. Michael gently placed his hand on his wife's shoulder from behind. Happy? To that question, Jennifer slowly nodded. Yes. I think we've become a real family in the truest sense. They no longer needed a life surrounded by luxury brands or glamorous interactions in high society. Now they had something much more important. And the next morning, as always, a new day was about to dawn on the city of Boston. At 5 in the morning, Rachel Martin woke up before her alarm could ring. After working as a nurse for over a decade, your body naturally starts responding even before the alarm clock. The soft early summer light filtering through the curtains gently illuminated her bedside. From the next room, she could still hear Lily's steady breathing. Her 8-year-old daughter didn't need to be up until 7. There was plenty of time to prepare for the school bus in this peaceful morning hour. Rachel quietly made her way to the kitchen and switched on the coffee maker. While defrosting a blueberry bagel she'd bought from Panera Bread, she took out Lily's favorite strawberry jam from the refrigerator. "Good morning, Mom." Turning around, she saw her golden-haired daughter standing there, her braids slightly disheveled, rubbing her still sleepy eyes. "Good morning, Lily. You're up early, what's the matter?" "I wanted to draw." Saying this, Lily picked up her sketchbook from the dining table. Drawing had become her particular favorite lately. Just last week, she'd happily reported being praised in her school art class. While preparing breakfast, Rachel occasionally glanced at her daughter's profile as she drew intently. 2 years since the divorce. The breakfast scene had changed since that day. But not all changes had been for the worse. The last year of her marriage to David had been especially difficult. He had found success as an executive at an IT company, earning promotion after promotion. But in exchange, his time at home had drastically decreased. Even on holidays, he was consumed by conference calls, repeatedly canceling promises made to Lily. The divorce proceeded amicably, with mutual agreement. Custody arrangements were settled through discussion. Lily would spend weekdays with Rachel and 2 weekends a month with David. But 6 months ago, a small change began to appear in their peaceful routine. David had started living with a woman he'd met through social media, Carol Bennett. Carol was an influencer with 500,000 followers on Instagram, posting daily updates about beauty-related content. Her posts always featured Lily, tagged with "becoming the ideal stepmother." At first, Lily seemed to enjoy it. She got lots of pretty clothes, was taken to fancy restaurants, and had photos taken that received numerous likes on social media. But recently, her daughter's expression when returning from weekend visits had begun to look somehow darker. "Mom, breakfast is delicious today." Lily's words brought Rachel back from her thoughts. On her daughter's plate lay a halved bagel, generously spread with strawberry jam and garnished with fresh blueberries. "I'm glad. Make sure you eat plenty." Was it a mother's nursing intuition? Lately, her daughter seemed to have lost weight. Her appetite didn't seem as good as before. But when asked, she would just smile and say, "I'm fine." At 7:45, the school bus's horn announced its arrival. Lily hurriedly shouldered her backpack and headed for the door. "Bye-bye, Mom. Take care. Wait at the library after school, okay? I'll come pick you up." As Rachel waved goodbye to her smiling daughter, a vague anxiety spread through her chest. Monday morning, Rachel woke earlier than usual to the sound of small sobs from the next room. The clock showed 4:15. "Lily." Knocking and entering the room, she found her daughter sitting curled up on the bed. Her usually neat golden braids were disheveled on the pillow. "What's wrong?" "My tooth hurts." Lily pressed her left cheek, closing her eyes as if holding back tears. Rachel sat beside her daughter and rubbed her small back. Her body was trembling slightly. "How long has it been hurting?" Since last night. But I thought I could bear it." Perhaps due to her professional habits as a nurse, Rachel immediately placed her hand on her daughter's forehead. She had a slight fever too. Let's skip school today and go to the dentist. From her experience working at Johns Hopkins Veterans Hospital, Rachel knew a trustworthy dentist. Dr. Sarah Wong, an Asian American female dentist known especially for her expertise with children. Calling for an emergency appointment, fortunately, they were able to get the first slot of the morning. Lily, it's a bit early, but let's get ready. We'll take some pain medicine too. Her daughter nodded silently. Even her hair, which she usually braided herself, was left to her mother this morning. By the time the braiding was finished, the over-the-counter children's pain reliever seemed to have taken effect, as her expression had softened somewhat. At 7 a.m., Rachel parked at Dr. Wong's dental clinic. Though it was 30 minutes before opening time, the staff had already begun preparations. There were only 2 people in the waiting room. In the quiet clinic, morning news flowed from the wall-mounted TV. The weather forecast predicted a week of clear skies ahead. Lily Martin, called from reception, mother and daughter were led to the examination room. In the pristinely white space, Dr. Wong greeted them with a warm smile. "Good morning, Lily. What seems to be the problem?" Dr. Wong crouched down to the child's eye level while speaking gently. "My tooth hurts. Can you show me where it hurts?" Lily pointed to her left back tooth. Dr. Wong carefully explained while guiding her to sit in the examination chair. Rachel stood next to her daughter, holding her small hand. "Let's take a look, shall we?" As Dr. Wong adjusted the light and picked up her dental mirror, her expression gradually grew more serious. She seemed to check the same area repeatedly, as if something was concerning her. "Mom, could you take a look at this?" Rachel leaned in as directed to look at her daughter's oral cavity. Even with her experience as a nurse seeing various cases, she couldn't help but gasp. The surface of the back tooth was worn down abnormally. The surface reflected in the dental mirror showed deep scratches, as if someone had deliberately ground it down. "This wear is very serious." Dr. Wong's voice had lost its usual cheerfulness. "I never imagined." Quiet medical terms echoed in the examination room. Bruxism due to stress. And a severe case at that. "May we take some X-rays?" Mother and daughter nodded silently. As they moved to the X-ray room, various thoughts swirled in Rachel's mind. Why hadn't she noticed? The nighttime teeth grinding, this level of stress. After the X-rays were complete, they returned to the examination room. Dr. Wong's expression had become even more serious as she looked at the results. "Lily, would you wait in the hallway for a bit? The nurse will help you pick out a toothbrush you like." After confirming her daughter had left the room, Dr. Wong turned to Rachel. "Mrs. Martin, I'll be frank. This condition is abnormal." The monitor displayed Lily's dental X-rays. For an 8-year-old child to have this level of dental damage is not normal. The most common cause of bruxism is psychological stress. Especially in children, changes in environment or psychological pressure are the main factors. Dr. Wong continued, carefully choosing her words. "Have there been any recent changes in Lily's life? At home or at school?" Various scenes flashed through Rachel's mind. The post-divorce visitations. Carol's appearance. The social media posts. Her daughter's recent lack of energy. As she quietly closed the examination room door, Rachel began to speak about her ex-husband's new relationship, living with the potential new mother, the twice-monthly visits, and the sense of unease she'd been feeling lately. When she finished speaking, Dr. Wong let out a deep sigh. "There's one more thing that concerns me." The monitor screen changed. This time it showed images taken by the intraoral camera. These marks can't be explained by bruxism alone. There are signs of excessive force being applied. As if she's been desperately clenching something. Those words sent a chill down Rachel's spine. "Would it be all right if we spoke with Lily a bit more? Perhaps with you present." They called the nurse to bring Lily back to the examination room. She returned holding a cute, toy-like toothbrush. "Lily, can you tell me the truth?" Dr. Wong asked gently. "This tooth pain, it didn't really start just yesterday, did it?" Her daughter's expression clouded over. Her small body began to tremble slightly. "About 3 months ago." A faint voice echoed in the examination room. "But I couldn't say anything. At Dad's house." With those words, Lily's voice caught in her throat. Rachel embraced her daughter. Those small shoulders were trembling as if they might break at any moment. Dr. Wong quietly began taking notes. The atmosphere in the examination room grew heavy. In her mother's arms, Lily's tears wouldn't stop. And each of those tears carved a deep pain into Rachel's heart. The staff room at Bryant Woods Elementary School was filled with afternoon sunlight. Mrs. Thompson, a veteran teacher of 30 years, placed a thick file in front of Rachel. "I've been very concerned about Lily's recent behavior." Mrs. Thompson adjusted her glasses and began speaking quietly. "It became particularly noticeable 3 months ago. She started missing homework assignments. She who had been a perfect attendance candidate began taking sick days on Mondays." Opening the file revealed Lily's submissions and grade reports arranged chronologically. Indeed, starting 3 months ago, her once neat handwriting had begun to deteriorate. "And this is what concerned me most." Mrs. Thompson pulled out Lily's lunch records. "She used to always finish her meals, but recently she's barely touching them. This was especially noticeable on Mondays." The cafeteria staff's reports were filled with comments like, "decreased appetite," and "lacks energy." Mrs. Thompson checked her surroundings before lowering her voice to say, "I've been taking photographs." She took out her smartphone and showed the images. They secretly documented Lily's appearance on Mondays after returning from weekend visits. With each passing day, her daughter's expression grew darker. "Could you share these photos with me?" "Of course. I've already made backups." The next appointment was with the school counselor, Jennifer Morris, a child psychology specialist with over 20 years of experience. Through sessions with Lily, things have gradually become clearer. Morris opened her notebook with a serious expression. Regarding her relationship with Carol, Lily initially said it was fun. She got lots of new clothes, was taken to fancy restaurants. But there was something hollow about the way she said fun. Rachel nodded silently. Things began to change from the second day of visits. Carol was obsessed with taking photos for social media posts. To create perfect family scenes, Lily was made to repeat the same poses over and over. Morris turned her records page by page. She was kept up late helping with housework. She was constantly told, "If you're a good girl, this much is normal, right?" Her meals were strictly controlled, and she was forbidden from eating foods she liked because "you're too fat." Rachel's hands trembled. Even more serious was the psychological abuse. Morris's voice became even more cautious. She was repeatedly told things like, "Your mom is a failure," and "Once I marry your dad, we'll get rid of you right away." Outside the window, the bell announcing the end of school was ringing. What particularly pained my heart was the story about Lily's precious drawings. Carol would tear up the pictures Lily had drawn with such care, saying they were terrible, and that drawings that can't be posted on social media are worthless. Morris let out a deep sigh. Even in such circumstances, Lily was desperately enduring. The fear that Dad would be sad, and that, if I'm not a good girl, I'll be abandoned, was binding her. The next evidence came from security camera footage. Scenes of Carol roughly grabbing Lily's arm and severely scolding her in the elevator hall. Scenes of Lily being made to stand alone in the lobby. Scenes of her being made to hold cleaning supplies in the middle of the night. And what proved decisive was Carol's secret social media account. In contrast to her perfect stepmother account, here she openly expressed her hatred for the child. If only this child wasn't here. Such a nuisance. Dreaming of the day I can have David's assets all to myself. The posts dated back exactly 3 months, perfectly matching when Lily's changes had begun. By the time they left Bryant Woods Elementary, the sun was beginning to set. Looking at the school building reflected in the car's rearview mirror, anger quietly burned within Rachel. That night, after Lily had fallen asleep, Rachel cried quietly in her daughter's room. Why hadn't she noticed? As a mother, shouldn't she have realized sooner? But now was not the time for regret. Sufficient evidence had been gathered. This was the beginning of the real battle. Her smartphone screen already showed 3 appointments. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., consultation with Baltimore police. 2 p.m., case conference at Child Welfare. And at 4 p.m., meeting with Sarah Jenkins, a sharp family law specialist. Mom. Suddenly, a small voice came from Lily's bedroom. Perhaps she'd had a nightmare. It's okay, Mom's here. Rachel sat beside her daughter and held her small hand. I won't let anyone hurt you anymore. I promise. 35th floor of a high-rise apartment in the Merriweather district. Rachel took a deep breath and pressed the intercom. Behind her stood Margaret Williams, a social worker from the Baltimore Police Department, holding a thick file of documents. Rachel? What are you doing here at this hour? David, opening the door, showed a confused expression at his ex-wife's unexpected visit. Behind his black-rimmed glasses, tired eyes wavered. We need to talk. It's serious. Well, I'm actually working from home right now. Then that's even better. This won't take long. There was a strength in Rachel's voice that her former husband didn't recognize. Led into the living room, there was Carol. Perfect makeup and a white designer dress. She looked as if she'd stepped right out of a social media post. My, Rachel. What brings you here so suddenly? Rachel didn't even glance at Carol's friendly smile. Instead, she turned to David. "Did you know our daughter had developed severe bruxism? A serious case caused by stress." David's expression clouded over. Carol casually picked up her smartphone. "These are the X-rays." The images taken in the examination room were spread out on the coffee table. "Compare them with normal 8-year-old teeth. You can see the abnormal wear, right? Dr. Wong says it's an unprecedented level of stress." But Lily never. "Of course she couldn't tell you." Rachel's voice trembled quietly. "Mrs. Thompson's report. Changes in her school behavior. Missing homework. Loss of appetite. It's all documented. One piece of evidence after another piled up. Counseling session records. Security camera footage from the apartment. And..." Rachel took out her tablet. Screenshots of Carol's secret account. The blood drained from Carol's face. "You even..." David's voice shook with anger. "This is a misunderstanding. David, I have my side of..." At that moment, Carol's smartphone rang. Notification sounds kept coming. Her main Instagram account was in the midst of a firestorm. Someone had exposed the existence of her secret account. Her 500,000 followers were beginning to raise their voices in criticism. "No. This isn't right." Carol desperately operated her smartphone. But contract termination notices from sponsoring companies began arriving one after another. High-end cosmetics brands. Apparel manufacturers. Health food companies. Beauty clinics. "David, please. I haven't done anything wrong. That's enough." David's voice was cold. "Get out of this house. Right now." "But I have debts." Those words froze the air in the room. David's expression darkened further. "So that's why you needed my assets. And Lily was in the way." "No. I just..." But her excuses were cut short. From the hallway appeared police officers and social workers. "Ms. Carol Bennett." Ms. Williams stepped forward. "We're from Child Welfare. We've received several serious reports about you." Carol's glamorous composure crumbled in an instant. That evening, Carol left the apartment with a single suitcase. All her social media accounts were deleted, and her sponsorship contracts were uniformly terminated. They say she left Maryland State, seemingly fleeing from debt collectors. Later, an apology letter arrived from David. "Rachel, I am truly sorry for causing Lily such distress. I have completely failed as a father, as a husband, and as a human being. I was so caught up in work that I lost sight of what was truly important. I didn't even have the judgment to see Carol for who she really was. But these are not excuses. My carelessness hurt Lily. I can't ask for forgiveness. I just want, if possible, another chance to start over as a father. David." After reading the letter, Rachel stared out the window for a long time. The early summer twilight in Maryland was unusually beautiful. "Mom, is that letter from Dad?" Lily quietly sat down beside her. The dark shadow that had been in her eyes was no longer there. "Yes, it is. Was Dad crying? The ink is smudged in places. Rachel couldn't help but smile at her sharp observation. Yes, I think so. Dad was very worried about you. Can I see him? At that question, Rachel gently embraced her daughter. Of course. But this time, Mom will come along too. Outside the window, the sunset was gently coloring the city. A journey to find a new form of family was beginning here. Saturday morning, 3 months later. Marilyn's autumn sunlight streamed through the kitchen window. Mom, can I have another pancake? Lily's voice had regained its former brightness. The sweet scent of maple syrup wafted over the table. Of course. But first. Rachel placed a small medicine packet in front of her daughter. Regular medication following her dental treatment. Lily obediently swallowed the medicine and moistened her throat with water. Good girl. Looking forward to today's checkup with Dr. Wong. Yes. She always praises me. Last week's examination showed marked improvement in her bruxism symptoms. The psychological counseling was also beginning to show effects, with the frequency of night crying decreasing. Oh, there's a message from Dad. Lily peered at the smartphone screen. Saturday afternoons had been set as regular father-daughter time. However, Rachel always accompanied them. David had changed significantly over these 3 months. He shifted from his previous work style, which was like a long-distance assignment, to one centered on working from home. He tried to avoid scheduling work on weekends as much as possible. Where would you like to go today? How about the open cafe at Inner Harbor? Came David's message. I want to go. I love their ice cream. Lily's eyes sparkled. The former compulsion to be a good girl was gradually fading. Well then, shall we get ready? Watching her daughter's retreating figure as she ran up the stairs, Rachel reflected on the events of 3 months ago. Carol Bennett had deleted all her social media accounts and moved to California. Her once flashy lifestyle had completely reversed, apparently now living like someone running from debt collectors. The path to her comeback as an influencer was completely closed. Mom, is this outfit okay? Turning to the voice, Rachel saw Lily wearing her new dress. It was one she'd chosen while shopping with David. Unlike the previous flashy clothes chosen for social media appeal, it was a cute design befitting an 8-year-old girl. It looks lovely on you. Shall I braid your hair? Yes. I love the braids you make, Mom. While brushing her daughter's hair, Rachel looked at their reflection in the mirror. The anxiety and tension that had been there before were no longer visible in Lily's expression. When they arrived at Inner Harbor, David had already secured a table. The waterfront was bustling with families on the holiday. Lily. Her daughter ran to her father's call. Watching this scene, Rachel suddenly realized that this was their new normal. There was no need to pretend to be a perfect family, no need to worry about social media likes. Just an authentic, life-sized family form. Rachel, I ordered coffee for you. The cup David offered carried her preferred aroma. He had remembered his ex-wife's taste. Hey, look. Lily opened her sketchbook. There were 3 smiling faces drawn there. No longer would anyone tear it up and throw it away. Dad, can I see you tomorrow too? Sorry, I have work tomorrow. But next Saturday, how about we go to the zoo? Yay! Her genuine joy echoed across the autumn harbor. Oh, that's right, David said as if remembering something. The school contacted me. Lily's drawing was selected for the city exhibition. Really? That's wonderful. Rachel hugged her daughter. Before, even such natural expressions of joy would have been hesitated over. In the harbor, tourist boats quietly passed by, and seagulls circled overhead. In the warm autumn sunshine, a new family story was slowly being woven. That night, Lily wrote in her diary for the first time in a while. Today was so much fun. I went to the harbor with Dad and Mom, ate ice cream, and talked lots. My teeth don't hurt anymore, and I don't have scary dreams anymore. Dad thinks about me more than work now. Mom always protects me. My drawings are going to an exhibition. They won't be torn up or thrown away anymore. I know what happiness is now. This is it. On the wall of the art room at Bryant Woods Elementary, Lily's new work is displayed. A drawing of 3 smiling faces in a family. There's no pretense or acting there. Just genuine happiness, as it naturally exists. Soft spring sunlight streamed into the luxurious residential neighborhood of Brookline. Melissa Wilson gazed at the magnolia flowers blooming in her garden through the large window and let out a deep sigh. Despite her success as a high-end real estate agent, she still hadn't found her complete place in this elegant neighborhood. After graduating from Boston University, she had built a 10-year career in real estate and was now at the forefront of the industry. However, even these achievements seemed to be viewed as merely a vulgar profession in the eyes of the Wilson family. I think I'll skip dinner with your mother this week, she said. Ethan looked up from his work laptop on the living room sofa. Again? Melissa, Mother's been worried about you. Yes, I know, but... Melissa's words trailed off, masking the turmoil in her heart. 3 years into their marriage, Patricia Wilson's cold gaze hadn't softened one bit. It's clear she thinks I'm the woman who ruined her son's life. That's not true, Ethan denied immediately, but his voice lacked conviction. Without fail, after Sunday Mass at church, Patricia would bring up news about Julia, Ethan's childhood friend. Julia, a Harvard graduate who now worked as a pediatrician at a prestigious hospital, was the perfect lady Patricia had wanted as her son's wife. Living in an upscale neighborhood, building a successful career, and having a loving husband, on the surface, Melissa's life seemed perfect. However, her blemish of coming from a middle-class family in Minnesota seemed to be an indelible stain in Patricia's eyes. There had been some relief when her father-in-law Thomas was alive, just 6 months ago. The gentle physician, who had earned the community's trust as the head of neurosurgery at Brookline General Hospital, had been someone who quietly tempered his wife's excessive behavior. But after his death, Patricia's controlling behavior had only intensified. The weekly mother-son dinners. Despite his busy schedule as a senior vice president at an IT company, Ethan never missed this tradition. Meanwhile, Melissa had reduced her contact with her mother-in-law to about once a month. Ethan, actually. Melissa stood up and walked over to her husband by the window. In her hand, she clutched a small envelope. We're having a baby. Ethan's face lit up with surprise and joy. Really? 7 weeks along. 2 years of fertility treatments have finally paid off. Ethan stood up and embraced Melissa. Thank you so much. In her trembling husband's arms, Melissa harbored mixed feelings. When and how should they break this happy news to Patricia? Her mother-in-law, who served as president of the Church Women's Association and devoted herself to charitable activities, was outwardly an elegant and merciful woman. However, beneath that mask lay an abnormal attachment to her son and an obsessive adherence to traditional values. As a central figure at Holy Trinity Church, always mindful of others' eyes and obsessed with maintaining a perfect appearance, how would she take this news? We should tell Mother soon, Ethan said. Let's tell her at dinner this weekend. Yes, right. Melissa smiled and nodded, but anxiety swirled in her heart. How would this happy event affect her relationship with her mother-in-law? No one could say. Soft chandelier light filled the private room at the upscale French restaurant La Maison. An elegant serving of seared foie gras appetizer graced the table, and the 1982 Chateau Lafite Rothschild in the glasses cast a deep sparkle. Patricia straightened her back and spread her napkin across her lap with perfect posture. Congratulations on becoming vice president, Ethan. As your mother, I couldn't be more proud. Thank you, Mother, Ethan smiled. Melissa met her husband's eyes and gave a small nod. The time had come to tell her. Mother, actually, we have some happy news, Melissa began quietly. We're having a baby. For a moment, the air seemed to freeze. Patricia's hand trembled slightly. Ethan continued, we confirmed it with tests recently. Patricia's expression slowly changed. It was a perfect smile, like an actor performing on stage. Oh, how wonderful! Patricia exclaimed. We must celebrate. Waiter, champagne. Melissa felt unsettled by her mother-in-law's reaction. This unprecedented warmth. Yet something felt unnatural about it. The next morning, an unannounced visitor rang the doorbell. Good morning, Melissa, Patricia stood there. Dressed in a perfect Chanel suit, carrying an Hermès Birkin bag. I've brought a gift for the baby. For your and the baby's safety. In front of the entrance sat a brand new Volvo XC90. The silver body gleamed in the morning sun. Mother, this is too expensive. Nonsense, Patricia waved her hand. It's for my first grandchild. It has all the latest safety features. I've already put the registration in your name. Patricia walked around the car, explaining each safety feature in detail. There was something obsessive about her tone. The latest brake system. Perfect collision prevention system. Even the seatbelt tension adjusts automatically. Despite her mixed feelings, Melissa thought this might be a chance to improve their relationship. Maybe she had truly changed. Ethan was overjoyed like a child. Thank you, Mother. Melissa, let's take it for a test drive. A few days later, Melissa went shopping in the car. She consulted about post-pregnancy nutrition management at Whole Foods and bought organic ingredients. Her heart swelled with expectations for their new life ahead. On the way home, something went wrong as she approached Brookline Avenue. When she pressed the brake pedal, the car wouldn't slow down. If anything, it felt like it was speeding up. She tried to stay calm with deep breaths. But the pedal was completely unresponsive, as if dead. The intersection was approaching. The traffic light was changing from yellow to red. "Stop, please." She desperately pulled the emergency brake, but that didn't work either. She honked the horn and flashed the hazard lights. But she could see a large truck entering the intersection. The thunderous sound of horns. The screech of tires. "Baby. I'm sorry." Violent impact. The sound of shattering glass. Deploying airbags. Everything felt like it was in slow motion. Just before losing consciousness, Melissa saw a strange sight. Across the intersection, a black Mercedes was parked. When she next opened her eyes, she was in a private hospital room. Pure white ceiling. The smell of disinfectant. The sound of an IV drip. Everything felt surreal. "You're awake," a nurse said gently. "The baby?" she asked in a hoarse voice. The nurse's expression clouded. That was enough to understand everything. At that moment, the room's door opened. Patricia entered. In her usual perfect attire, carrying a high-end brand flower arrangement. "Melissa, that must have been terrible." Patricia's voice had an unnatural brightness. And with an icy smile, she whispered in her ear. "The baby is gone now. My son is free." Melissa stared at Patricia, suppressing the pain throughout her body. Though her voice trembled, her words were clear. "You'll regret this smile for the rest of your life." Patricia's expression froze for a moment. But she quickly composed herself and gracefully left the room. In Melissa's eyes, a quiet flame of determination was lit. This wasn't the end. Everything was just beginning. 2 weeks after being discharged, in early August, Melissa sat in her home office with her laptop open. On the screen was the Boston Police Accident Report. She shook her head at the conclusion of "accident due to sudden brake system failure." This is too perfect. There were too many unnatural points in the police investigation. The simplified scene investigation. Partial missing surveillance camera footage. And Patricia's unnatural behavior. Everything pointed to something. Melissa picked up her phone and dialed a saved number. Jim Collins Detective Agency. "Hello, this is Melissa Wilson." A warm, deep voice answered from the other end. "Mrs. Wilson, I've heard the rumors. Can we meet?" That afternoon, Melissa visited an old office building near Boston Public Garden. The door bore gold letters reading, "James Collins Private Investigation." "Welcome." Jim Collins was a well-built man who appeared to be in his late 60s. After a 20-year police career, he had added another 15 years as a private investigator. Behind his gentle expression lay sharp eyes. "Will you believe my story?" Melissa asked quietly. Jim let out a deep sigh. "During my time as police chief, I saw similar cases many times. Accidents wrapped up with superficial investigations. And the darkness behind them." Melissa told him about the accident details and her suspicions about Patricia. Jim listened intently, occasionally taking notes. "Let's begin the investigation," Jim said gravely. "But please promise one thing. Your husband must not know about this investigation." "I understand." Ethan wouldn't believe it yet. The investigation proceeded cautiously but steadily. Jim utilized his connections as former police chief to obtain all surveillance camera footage around the accident scene. Furthermore, he collected detailed analysis data from the Volvo dealership's maintenance records and the accident vehicle. In September, they made their first important discovery. "Look at this," Jim pointed at his laptop screen. It showed someone who appeared to be Patricia meeting with a middle-aged man in work clothes in a back alley the night before the accident. A cash exchange could be seen. "This man is a mechanic at the Volvo dealership," Jim said. "Name's Mike Johnson. A veteran with over 20 years of experience." Through subsequent surveillance, Mike's background came to light. A man with debt, married to a gambling-addicted wife. And $100,000 in cash from Patricia. All the pieces were starting to connect. "I'll make contact," Jim suggested. On a chilly night in early October, Mike approached a car in his apartment complex parking lot. Jim sat in the driver's seat. "Get in," a quiet but authoritative voice. "Who are you?" Mike tensed up. "Former police chief Jim Collins. I know everything about your past and present." The blood drained from Mike's face. "Let's talk. About the $100,000 you received from Patricia Wilson. And about the brake system modification." Mike squeezed out words in a trembling voice. "She threatened me. I needed money for my daughter's surgery. If you tell everything, there might be a chance to reduce your sentence," Jim advised. "But if you stay silent." That night, Mike told everything. Patricia's contact. How he modified the brake system. And the guilt of knowing an accident would happen but staying silent. The evidence steadily accumulated. Mike's confession. Surveillance camera footage. Tools used for the modification. Cash transaction records. And the decisive evidence. Patricia's handwritten memo. "She probably thought it was a perfect plan," Jim said while organizing the evidence. "But there's no such thing as a perfect crime in this world." By late October, all the evidence was in place. Melissa quietly put into words the emotions she had long suppressed. "Let's report it to the police." There was no hesitation in those words anymore. All evidence was submitted to the Boston Police Major Case Squad. Detective Marcus Brown let out a deep sigh while reviewing the materials. "This is clearly an attempted murder case." On a Sunday in early November, a charity event hosted by Patricia was being held at Holy Trinity Church. Elegant music played while upper-class ladies and gentlemen chatted. Police officers quietly entered. "Mrs. Patricia Wilson," Detective Marcus stepped forward. "You're under arrest for attempted murder." The venue erupted in chaos. Patricia answered with an elegant smile. "Me? Don't be ridiculous." But her expression gradually crumbled. Especially when the handwritten memo emerged from the evidence, the blood completely drained from her face. The sound of handcuffs echoed in the church hall. Patricia's scream. And the shocked expressions of the gathered people. Melissa watched everything quietly. And then came the most painful moment. Telling Ethan. In their living room, Melissa laid out all the evidence before Ethan. Your mother tried to kill me and the baby. Ethan was speechless. Surveillance camera footage. The mechanic's testimony. And his mother's handwritten memo. All the evidence presented undeniable facts. It's a lie. Mother wouldn't. Ethan's voice trembled. And when he saw the final piece of evidence, he completely broke down. It was a recording of Patricia's words in the hospital room after the accident. Mother, why? Ethan's anguished cry echoed in the quiet night living room. In the Norfolk County Superior Court. As a solemn atmosphere hung in the air, Prosecutor Sarah Murphy read the indictment. I will state the charges against the defendant Patricia Wilson. 1 count of attempted murder. 1 count of property damage. 1 count of fraud. The defendant, under careful planning. Patricia sat in the front row, dressed in a luxury brand suit, maintaining an elegant posture. However, the slight trembling of her hands betrayed her inner turmoil. Defense attorney Robert Stein was one of Boston's most expensive lawyers. He stood up and began his argument in a calm voice. My client's actions were out of concern for her son. The psychiatric evaluation results also. At those words, Melissa in the gallery narrowed her eyes. Her husband Ethan squeezed her hand tightly. Witness examination began. The first witness was mechanic Mike Johnson. I received $100,000 from Mrs. Patricia, he began testifying in a trembling voice. I was instructed to modify the car's brake system. Please state the specific instructions, the prosecutor prompted. To make it look like an accident. And to ensure. Mike choked on his words. To ensure that the fetus would. The courtroom fell silent. The next witness was a technician who analyzed surveillance camera footage near the accident scene. Then the emergency doctor who examined Melissa right after the accident. With each testimony, the outline of the case became clearer. During recess, Ethan whispered to Melissa in the hallway. Something's wrong with Mother. Indeed, there were changes in Patricia's behavior. Cracks were beginning to show in her perfect lady facade. Afternoon court. Patricia's witness examination began. I did nothing wrong, Patricia answered with dignity. I was just trying to protect my family from someone who could ruin my son's life. Then why did you modify the brakes? The prosecutor pressed. That's. Patricia's voice wavered. My son should have had a suitable marriage partner. Someone perfect in family background, education, everything. You call attempting murder protecting family. Patricia's expression distorted. I understand. How much someone from the lower class like Melissa would taint our world. She and that child in her womb. The courtroom erupted. The judge's gavel demanded order. Mother. Ethan's voice broke the silence. All eyes turned to him. Mother, when did you become such a person? The blood drained from Patricia's face. Ethan, everything was for you. Shut up, Ethan stood up. You've been completely different since Father died. But to go this far. Ethan. I only wanted your happiness. Happiness? Ethan's voice rang cold. Mother, you tried to kill my wife and my child. How could that lead to happiness? Patricia's perfect mask shattered with a sound. No. No. Everything is wrong, she began screaming. My son was born into a perfect family, received a perfect education, and was supposed to have a perfect marriage. But this woman ruined everything. The courtroom fell into complete chaos. Guards rushed to restrain Patricia. The evidence examination lasted 2 weeks. During that time, Patricia's abnormal attachment and obsessiveness gradually came to light. The psychiatric evaluation noted severe obsessive-compulsive disorder that had worsened after her husband's death. The day of the verdict. The courtroom was packed with spectators. Defendant Patricia Wilson, the judge's voice rang out. Your actions were premeditated and extremely malicious. Neither insanity nor diminished capacity is recognized. The verdict was delivered. The court sentences the defendant to 15 years in prison. The gallery stirred. Ethan! Patricia cried out. Everything was for you. But Ethan had already turned his back. Taking Melissa's hand, he quietly left the courtroom. As reporters swarmed around them, the couple got into their car. It's finally over, Melissa said quietly. Yes, Ethan let out a deep sigh. I'll never see Mother again. Those words carried both deep sadness and strong determination. After the verdict, Patricia's collapse progressed rapidly. She lost her position as president of the Church Women's Association, and her friends drifted away one by one. Her fall from graceful society further devastated her mental state. The media widely reported the case as the dark underbelly of Boston high society. Her hypocritical charitable activities were exposed, and the social status she had built crumbled easily. In late December, Ethan was packing all his mother's photos into a cardboard box. Are you sure about this? Melissa asked worriedly. Yes, Ethan answered resolutely. Mother no longer exists in our lives. The cardboard box was sealed away in the basement storage. Outside, the year's last snow had begun to fall quietly. As if purifying everything, it wrapped the city in a pure white garment. Melissa and Ethan stood together by the window. Let's start our new life, Melissa whispered. Ethan nodded silently. Several years later. In a quiet residential area of Cambridge, about an hour's drive from Brookline. In front of a house warm with Christmas decorations, a 4-year-old girl with a bright red ribbon was making a snowman. Alice, aren't you cold? Melissa called from the doorway. I'm fine. Alice responded with a smile. Look, I made a snowman. Melissa nodded with a smile. For years since they had adopted Alice. Her smile had become a beacon of hope for the entire family. I'm home, Ethan's car returned. Since becoming CEO, work had become even busier, but he never neglected time with his family. Papa. Alice ran to him. Oh, is this a snowman? Ethan lifted his daughter. It's very well made. Can I open my Christmas presents? That's a treat for tomorrow morning, Melissa gently explained. The family of 3 entered the living room wrapped in warm light. Under the large Christmas tree lay presents for Alice. The fireplace fire softly illuminated the room. Melissa, Ethan turned to his wife. Are we good for next week's final adoption interview? Yes, Melissa nodded. The meetings with Noah, who would become Alice's brother, were progressing well. Noah is looking forward to becoming part of our family too. Meanwhile, at the same time, in a rehabilitation facility, Maplewood Care Center, in the Boston suburbs, Patricia Wilson sat in a wheelchair, staring out the window. "Mrs. Wilson, it's time for your medicine," a nurse called. There was no response. After falling in prison during her 4th year and becoming paraplegic, she now lived in this rehabilitation facility following her parole. No trace remained of her once dignified appearance. In her room at the facility, numerous letters she had sent lay piled up, all returned marked "address unknown." Ethan had completely changed his address and cut off all ties with his mother. "Ma'am, it's dinner time," a caregiver called. "Today is a special day," Patricia mumbled with vacant eyes. "Christmas Eve, we used to, as a family." Her words trailed off. The happy times in her memories now brought only pain. In the facility hallway, young nurses were gossiping. From Patricia's room window at Maplewood Care Center, she could see the nearby park. There, families were chatting happily. Tears fell. "Merry Christmas, Ethan." Words heard by no one were absorbed into the cold window glass. Meanwhile, in the Cambridge house, warm family time flowed on. "Hey, Papa," Alice asked while reading a picture book on Ethan's lap. "Where's Grandma?" A moment of silence. Melissa watched Ethan's expression worriedly. Ethan answered quietly, "Your grandmother went far away. We can't see her anymore, and that's how it has to be." "Why?" Sometimes, Melissa gently added an explanation, "Even adults make wrong choices. But we learn from that, and we try to become a better family." After thinking for a moment, Alice smiled and said, "I'm glad I'm Papa and Mama's child." Ethan and Melissa looked at each other and smiled. The scars certainly remain. But the happiness they gained by overcoming them is irreplaceable. The night deepened. Alice headed to her room early, saying, "I have to sleep before Santa comes." Ethan and Melissa were alone in the living room. The fireplace fire flickered quietly. "Next year will be our first Christmas as a family of 4, Melissa said. "Yes," Ethan held his wife's hand. "I try not to think about Mother anymore. But sometimes, when I see Alice's smile, I'm reminded anew of the magnitude of Mother's mistakes." Ethan. Mother lost sight of what true happiness is. There are things more important than family background and social status. Melissa silently leaned against Ethan. Outside the window, large snowflakes were falling. The city's illuminations twinkled fantastically through the curtain of snow. "Hey," Melissa whispered. "Our family's story is just beginning." "You're right," Ethan smiled too. Mother's chosen path was too sad. But we have a different path. The fireplace fire gently cast their shadows on the wall. Meanwhile, at the rehabilitation facility, a single light remained on in Patricia's room. She continued staring out the window. The price she paid for seeking perfection too much was far too great. Now, all that remained for her was regret and time that could never be recovered. But life goes on. In the Cambridge house, Alice was dreaming of Christmas by her pillow. Melissa and Ethan were talking about their new family's future. And next year, Noah would join them. This family's story continues on. The shadows of the past certainly exist. But they turn those into lessons, nurturing stronger, gentler bonds. Perhaps that is the true victory. Outside the window, the Christmas snow gently wrapped all the stories in its embrace.